Hangin with Mr. Douglas.
What's going on, everybody? Hey. Thank you for hanging. It's a pleasure to be with you. Today, it's going to be a little bit of an informal kind of mishmash, smorgasbord, kind of a pick and choose and make a deli sandwich just the way you like kind of an episode. I would like to take us through an introduction with a Tom Montalk post and our brief conversation, our brief back and forth, into two book reviews, which I am very thankful Blue Crayon has given me permission to utilize their book reviews to be able to discuss and read them, on camera, here with you. And so that's the plan. We'll go through two book reviews. We'll come back to a Tom Montalk post, a different one. And then I want to close with an interesting segment from the book, The Portal, which I know I've referenced before. Good book. Surprise. And in particular, it is the kind of out of nowhere, a mention of several techniques given to the author on her journey, toward the end of her journey, by her mentor, which I have briefly spoken about in the episode reviewing Anne Druffel's book, How to Defend Yourself Against Alien Abduction. I want to touch upon that just so that we can get that information out there, because I find the techniques fascinating, straightforward, and as I had said in that episode, I make use of them, and one in particular, and I think they're good to have in mind. I think, like I say, as many tools in our utility belt that we can have, I think the better. And whatever resonates with you, take it, use it, be successful with it, grow, and everything else, drop by the wayside. It might be valuable for somebody else. So, without further ado, let's hit up this first Tom Montalk post, and I will do my best to show them to you in the video. But Tom Montalk, a little while ago, and before I even go into it, and I know I've said it before, I am a massive fan of this man's mentality, his research, his philosophy, the kind of nuance and level of consideration that Mr. Tom Montalk brings to the table is worth anyone's inquiry. You will come away better than you were before by engaging with this guy's work. I hope to be able to interview him someday. I think he is a massive benefit to humanity, just because he has given so much attention, care, and time, knowledge, and awareness to this and adjacent subjects. An immense mind, an immense individual, and I want to discuss via a couple of posts the subject matter that we will discuss today. We will be touching upon the Jinn, just as a heads up. They have been percolating on my mind here for a little while, and I would like to discuss them. And we will get into them again as we enter into this conversation with a little Tom Montalk. But yeah, Tom Montalk, check him out. Well worth it. So he posts, and this was July 27th, 2026, true alien contact and activity, biological beings with technology, is somewhat rare. Let's say less than 3% of the population, probably a lot less than that. Aliens are very selective about whom they target, a matter of efficiency and OPSEC, operational security, I believe is what that means. Let's make sure. Yeah, operational security. Thank you. They face logistical limitations like not operating openly, thus lacking large supply chains, or being limited in number, thus not omnipresent. But demons, discarnates, astral parasites, and other occult entities don't have that limitation because they don't have physical bodies and infrastructure to maintain. And astral to etheric portals allow for fast travel between node points once set up. A person can be a node point and be a walking portal. Ooh. They do have occult powers. Depending on the individual entity, they have telepathy, telekinesis, pyrokinesis, including creating orbs, portal openings, apports, or manifestations of physical objects, is what apports alternatively can be classified as. Messing with electronics, dream manipulation, etheric implants, travel without ships, no worries about evading NSA scalar sensors, natural invisibility, and varying levels of precognition. Aliens can do much of that too, often better, but less of the telekinesis for some reason, and more of the technology, biology, physicality factor, of course. They can remove you from your home for hours, missing time, and other obvious factors that only advanced physical beings can pull off. That missing time segment we discussed, again, also in the episode about Andruffel's book, where I bring up de Grazia's work, where he breaks down the idea that these beings exist in between the frames of experience, and within the in-between space of the frames of experience, they're able to pull you out of your current frame and put you in that in-between space, and then put you back into another frame that would, to us, feel as if like a chunk of time has passed and we had no recollection of it. It's because we were placed from one spot on our perceivable experiential timeline from one to another. Anyway, de Grazia's description, very fascinating and well worth a read. We may go into him a little bit more as time permits. Moving on. Occult entities are far more common than aliens and can stick around 24/7. So on average, you're more likely to be dealing with them than with bona fide aliens. Since they can mimic aliens to some degree via phenomena and induced hallucinations, this is a problem. It contaminates the ufology field or leads to concluding aliens don't exist and it's all occult entities. But see, this is why it is important that the discussion of what we can do about it includes magical circles. The magical circles of thought and action, magical activity that we can, at the very least, comprehend, understand, get a hold of, if not participate. Everybody's different. We're all on our own path. But I think this kind of mental technology, really, and spiritual technology above the physical, this is important to begin to grasp and understand and take hold of in one way or another. 'Cause they do. So, the difference between them comes down to nuance based on experience and a working model of how both operate. Yes. For example, discarnates can't induce a hallucination in anyone at any time. If you think that, you'll throw your hands up and say it's all unfalsifiable, but not so fast. Their hallucination induction requires a gradual process of worming their way into a person's aura, taking control of their neural activity, and only then can they create extended internal experiences. An exception? The person is already in a natural hallucinatory state like dreaming, on drugs, having an NDE, or is in a hypnagogic or hypnopompic state. Then the entity can splice into that process, and it's happening. Even then, some people have more accurate ESP perception than others, able to see through the disguise. That opportunistic splicing isn't the same as talking in someone's head while they're wide awake, as happens with some schizophrenics who have the particular etheric, neurological, and anatomical vulnerability. So if you're an investigator who's dealt with occult entities your entire life, who gets drawn into others who have occult entity activity, that's going to be your primary data experience set. Add in those entities superficially mimicking aliens, and what can you do but conclude it's all a singular occult intelligence? Since I've, Tom, dealt with both alien and occult entities, and know others who have, and thousands have shared with me their experiences, I had to create various bins. This Awesome. Number 1, alien-like. Biological, technological, not necessarily in our physical realm, but also not in the etheric astral either. They can be interdimensional, which overlaps with occult, but modus operandi is alien-like. Number 2, occult. No sign of alien traits. Fits perfectly from the occult theory, what's expected of discarnates. 3, occult imposters. The victim recounts alien-associated imagery, but all behaviors of the perps indicates occult discarnate entities. 4, other. Mental illness, MyLab targeting, etc. You can see the level of nuance needed to tackle this, he says. It's not easy, and I'm still refining the distinctions. But it is, again, that kind of nuance that is brilliant and the way we need, I would argue, to wade into these waters. And this is what I respond with. This is awesome nuance. This is the kind of thoughtful consideration that moves us forward. When it comes to occult imposters, it seems like the Jinn could be a strong candidate from what I have come across. Any info pointing in the opposite direction? Are there others you've found that may fit into this bin? And Tom responds, thank you, Tom. Jinn are in that category, but since Arabs and Persians didn't have a word for alien, they'd have put both under the same umbrella. They did distinguish between demons, angels, and jinn, though. Therefore, jinn in our language encompasses more the set of alien, cryptoterrestrial, elemental, thought form, and discarnate life forms. It's said that whereas humans have bodies of clay, jinn have bodies of smokeless fire, which sounds like plasma, etheric energy, or matter substance from another realm that radiates when here in ours. And I just said, okay, yes, I recall the smokeless fire description. It does have some rhyming with recent plasma entity discussions. Thank you always. Appreciate the insight. Yes. And that will lead us into these 2 book reviews from Blue Crayon. Thank you, Blue Crayon. Blue Crayon's official X handle is Blue Crayon 71. Goes by the name of Blue. Awesome. Wealth of information on their site. Check out the media section. The reviews, the summaries, the breakdowns, both of books as well as spaces and podcasts. Thank you, Blue, because we can't watch every one and read every one, but boy, do your summaries help tighten up and simultaneously expand our web of understanding. I'm all about it. I appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me to read through these summaries. So the first of 2 books we'll be going into from Blue Summaries is The Jinn Hypothesis, Imran Hussain, Farouk McDermott, an Islamic framework for interpreting the modern UFO phenomena. Spooky book cover. The Jinn Hypothesis, an Islamic framework for UFO phenomena by Imran Hussain and Farouk McDermott, argues that the modern unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, UFO, are not extraterrestrial in the traditional sense, but are instead the manifestations of the jinn, a species of intelligent beings central to Islamic theology. The following summary details the historical context, epistemological framework, and specific points of contact identified by the authors to support this hypothesis. The modern resurgence of the UFO phenomenon. The discourse surrounding UFOs underwent a paradigm shift following a 2017 New York Times article that revealed the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP. Since then, senior military officials like Carl Nell have stated that non-human intelligence, NHI, exists and has been interacting with humanity for a long time. Academic engagement has also grown with scientists like Professor Gary Nolan, awesome, studying the physiological effects of the phenomenon, and religious studies professor D.W. Pasulka exploring its spiritual and cultural implications. Epistemological groundwork. And forgive me, I'm going to do the best I can to pronounce these. I believe it's Gaib and Shahada. It's awesome sounding. The authors establish an Islamic epistemological framework to analyze these events, distinguishing between two realms: Shahada, the witnessed world inhabited by humans; Gaib, or Gaib, G-H-A-Y-B, the unseen realm, which includes the divine, angels, and jinn. While the Gaib has access to the Shahada, humans are generally not privy to the Gaib unless God chooses to disclose it. The authors argue that while technological sci-fi terminology is used today, traditional religious language may describe the same essence, or musamma, under different names, ism. They propose that the cryptoterrestrial hypothesis, the idea that these beings are native to Earth but hidden, perfectly matches the Islamic definition of jinn, as the word jinn itself means hidden or concealed. Nature and presentation of the jinn. According to Islamic sources, jinn were created from smokeless fire and possess free will. They are capable of shape-shifting. Jinn can take on various forms, including humans, animals like snakes or dogs, or strange spectral entities. And the Greys often seem to, in screen memories, be portrayed as owls, deer, raccoons, foxes. So the shape-shifting situation is there. Extreme speed, they can traverse vast distances instantaneously. Invisibility, they can watch humans from where they cannot be seen. We've all felt that at some early hour in the morning. The authors link these traits to modern UAP sightings, such as the USS Nimitz encounter, where crafts exhibited unprecedented maneuverability. They suggest that the gray aliens frequently reported in abduction cases, like that of Betty and Barney Hill, are simply one of many guises that jinn adopt to fit the contemporary materialistic zeitgeist. The role of technology and USOs. A common question is how biological spirits can account for physical metallic crafts. The authors offer two explanations. One, direct manifestation. There is no scriptural restriction preventing jinn from taking the form of inanimate objects. Two, master craftsmanship. The Quran describes jinn as builders and divers, who manufactured statues and reservoirs for Prophet Solomon. Historical Arab traditions also view jinn as master craftsmen of legendary weapons. I mean, cool. Who doesn't want a legendary weapon? The diver aspect is particularly relevant to USOs, unidentified submerged objects. Many UAPs have been observed entering and exiting the ocean at supersonic speeds, which aligns with Islamic narrations stating that Satan, a jinn, places his throne upon water, and that certain jinn are specialized in diving for treasures. The theme of deception. A central pillar of the Jinn hypothesis is the fundamentally deceptive nature of both the phenomenon and the jinn. Ufologists like Jacques Vallée have noted that UFO encounters often involve misdirection and illusion, appearing intentionally absurd to keep scientists away and manipulate human belief systems. I don't know why they are appearing as absurd. It sure does seem intentional. It's that trickster situation that I just, It can be very frustrating. Let me tell you, the tricksters. I don't know if I like them very much sometimes. Sometimes they can be funny, sometimes not so funny. In Islam, Iblis, I-B-L-I with a line over it, S, Satan, and his followers are described as masters of delusion, who make false promises to lead humans away from worshiping God. There seems to be a lot of false promises that come from these abduction and encounter experiences. It's going to happen, I swear, and then it doesn't happen. No, and it's going to happen again in a different way. Trust us. The authors argue that by appearing as advanced extraterrestrials, malevolent jinn can secure submission and adoration from humans who value technological prowess, effectively diverting them from the divine. Abduction narratives and missing time. The authors compare modern abduction stories, like John Mack's research, to historical Islamic accounts. A notable example from the Caliphate of Umar ibn al-Khattab, that's K-H-A-T-T-A with a line over it, B, describes a man from the Ansar, that's A-N-A with a line over it, R, who was abducted by jinn for 4 years before being rescued by a different group of Muslim jinn. So before we move forward, that little gem of a story piqued my interest, and now I kind of tumbled down a rabbit hole about this guy who was abducted for 4 years by jinn and then rescued by a different kind of Muslim-worshipping jinn. So I just quickly asked Gemini, what's up with that? And ooh-wee, this is the response that it gave me. The famous historical account took place during the caliphate of Umar ibn al-Khattab. It is recorded in authentic Islamic historic literature, including Sunan al-Bayhaqi, that's B-A-Y, maybe Bayhaqi, B-A-Y-H-A-Q-I. I apologize for all mispronunciations. And was classified as authentic, Sahih, H-A-H-I-H, by scholars like Sheikh al-Albani. The abduction. A Muslim man from the Ansar tribe, the residents of Medina, left his house one night to pray the night prayer, Isha, at the mosque. On his way, he was abducted by a group of polytheist, mushrik jinn, and completely vanished. The 4-year waiting period. His wife approached the caliph, I think it's Caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab, to report her missing husband. After confirming the man's sudden disappearance with his people, Umar ordered the wife to wait for 4 years. In Islamic jurisprudence, this specific waiting period is established for a woman whose husband disappears without a trace, which also has a particular name, al-mafqud, A-L-M-A-F-Q-U-D. When the 4 years concluded and he was still not returned, Umar granted her permission to move on, and she subsequently remarried. The dude was gone for the full 4. The rescue by Muslim jinn. Shortly after her remarriage, the original husband suddenly reappeared in Medina. When brought before Umar to explain where he had been, the man detailed his captivity. The captivity. He had been kept as a prisoner in a jinn prison for those 4 years by the polytheist jinn who stole him. The war. A war broke out between the captor jinn and a different army of righteous Muslim jinn. Fascinating. The rescue. The Muslim jinn defeated the polytheists, captured them, and discovered the human prisoner among the captives. The return home. Upon realizing he was a Muslim brother, the Muslim jinn gave him a choice. They could either keep him with them or return him safely to his family. He chose to go home, and they safely escorted him back to Medina. Regarding his remarried wife, Umar ibn al-Khattab gave the returned husband the choice to either reclaim his wife, which would annul her second marriage, or let her stay with her new husband while receiving financial compensation. And it asked if I would like to explore the legal rulings or look into the food and drink that the dude had while he was captive by the jinn. I said, yeah, why don't you tell me about the man's experience was like with the food and drink and everything while he was held captive by the jinn. Based on the narration recorded by scholars like Ibn Abi al-Dunya and al-Bayhaqi, the Ansari man provided specific details about his daily life and the conditions of his captivity, food and drink. When Umar ibn al-Khattab asked him what he ate and drank while living among the jinn, the man replied, the food he ate, foul beans, and anything over which the name of Allah was not mentioned. The drink he drank was al-jadaf, a type of froth or foam that bubbles up on water, or a specific desert plant drink. Living conditions in captivity, well, enslavement, he was kept as a captive and forced into servitude by his polytheist jinn captors. The separation, he lived entirely in their realm, invisible to the human world, unable to contact his family. The judgment, when rescued, the Muslim jinn put his captors on trial, executed the guilty ones, and offered him immediate safe passage home. Would you like to know the legal ruling? Again, they ask me, or other authentic narrations about human interactions with jinn. I said, yeah, what's one other notable authentic narration about human and jinn interaction? And if there are any lessons or information for how humans could best protect against jinn, recognize different kinds of jinn, like ones who would want to do humans harm versus ones that are either neutral or would be willing to work with humans, maybe even be cool with humans and be jinn friends. That would be great. Gemini comes back. One of the most famous and highly practical authentic narrations regarding direct human-jinn interaction is the famous story Abu Hurairah guarding the charity Zakat treasury. and I apologize again, all the mispronunciations. Recorded in Sahih al-Bukhari, this narration contains the exact formula for protection against harmful jinn and highlights how they interact with humans. The story: Abu Hurairah and the shape-shifting thief. The Prophet Muhammad appointed Abu Hurairah to guard the collected zakat food charity. The catch: one night, Abu Hurairah caught a man stealing handfuls of food. The thief begged for mercy, claiming he was desperately poor and had a large family to feed. Abu Hurairah let him go. Chill dude, Abu. The repeat: the next day, the Prophet told Abu Hurairah that the thief would return. Surely enough, the thief returned, and the second night and the third night to steal again and again. The secret: on the third night, Abu Hurairah refused to release him and threatened to take him to the Prophet. Desperate to be freed, the thief offered a trade. "Let me go, and I will teach you the words by which Allah will benefit you." The thief told him to recite Ayat al-Kursi, the Surah al-Baqarah 2:255, before going to sleep. He promised that if he did, a guardian from Allah would protect him and no evil, shaitan, would approach him until morning. When Abu Hurairah reported this to the Prophet Muhammad, the Prophet confirmed, "He told you the truth, though he is a habitual liar. Do you know who you were talking to these past 3 nights? That was a devil, shaitan." Gemini goes on, and that it's very interesting when we peel back some of the layers of religious vocab and dogma from that story. What might that dude have been dealing with? I mean, Occam's razor may say that it was just another dude. Maybe. I don't know. I do not know. If it was, however, an entity, and again, if we go back to this idea that it may not necessarily be the specifics that matter, but the belief and confidence that what you are investing in matters most of all, and that particular fierce faith in that particular ideology, when actionalized with this particular prayer, and it's a prayer, I won't read it, though there are 7 very interesting interpretations in English of the prayer, interpretations of the prayer. I'll link it in the description. Basically a good night prayer, watch out, make me not drowsy. Your footstool covers the entire universe. I get it. It's a way of saying, yo, you are the best of the best, and you protect me, and we cool, right? No jinn harassment. So this idea that, hey, here is a way to operationalize that confidence and belief. Okay, we go on here, the 3 types of jinn that Gemini describes for us, and we'll get into them. I know I talked about them in the recording. I'm sure we'll get back to that at that recording here. But the 3 types of jinn, to address your question about recognizing different types of jinn, a famous narration from Abu Thalaba al-Kushani, Sahih ibn Hibban, states that the Prophet said the jinn are divided into 3 physical forms. 1, the flyers, a type that has wings and flies through the air. Interesting. 2, the animals, a type that takes the form of snakes and black dogs. Flying through the air, craft, plasma, pulsing orbs. The animals, snakes, black dogs. You got the story of the Skinwalker Ranch, right? With the big old direwolf black dog. Also, Harry Potter, the Grimm. And then number 3, wanderers, a type that settles down for a rest and then moves on, similar to nomads. Just in case, if you can hear any noise, they are doing extensive work on our roof, which is great. Humans and jinn relations. Can humans be friends with jinn? Islam teaches a very strict protocol regarding how humans should approach the jinn realm. While jinn have free will and are split into good Muslims, interesting, neutrals, and evil disbelievers, mainstream Islamic theology advises against trying to work with, communicate with them, or become friends with them. I had no idea that there were jinn that actually were under the Muslim banner. That's pretty fascinating. And yes, Islam does differentiate between angels, demons, and jinn. But here you have even a sub-differentiation of the jinn, where you got jinn that are pro-Muslim and believing in the Muslim theology, the Islam theology, and then jinn that are polytheistic and that don't. And so, does that mean that the jinn were around before Allah showed up? And what are these polytheistic gods that they believe in? And are they the ones that are like hyper antagonistic toward humans? Because it seems like a lot of them are. Anyway, it's just a very interesting specification. And, I could be getting into the weeds with this for hours, but I wanted to touch upon this because it did spark some interest and have me go down an interesting rabbit hole here. But the problem with Jinn friends. Jinn live in a completely different dimension and are intentionally hidden from us. Seeking them out or trying to build a partnership usually leads to a dangerous dynamic where the human being begins to rely on the jinn rather than Allah, which easily crosses into spiritual harm or forbidden magic. And, hey, don't wanna put myself in any unnecessary danger. But I have to ask, who forbade it? And, forbidden why? What is the ultimate goal here? The ultimate goal is to be within coherence of self. And so the idea of dependence on a jinn or any other entity, to me, no bueno. So I totally get that. How best to gird ourselves and understand exactly the situations that we are in so that we can find better footing and move on up as a human species and as individuals all together. So it sounds like working with the jinn, because what ends up happening is that relationship becomes strangely intertwined in a not-so-good way for humans. Rings true, has echoes with other demonic kind of interactions. So, okay, I get it. Be wise, maybe don't. Gemini then goes on to say, the exception. Righteous, practicing Muslim jinn generally avoid interfering in human lives altogether. They attend human mosques, listen to Islamic lectures, and pray, but they maintain their distance out of respect for the boundaries Allah set between our worlds. There is this other world. There it is, this other world full of jinn, and some of them are chill and be like, we're not going to bother you. We'll listen to the lectures and hang out at mosques, but we're not going to bother you. And some of them hover over your bed at night and cause you a hard time breathing and sleep paralysis while taking your loosh. I don't know. It's difficult to suss out the actualities with all of this because it is all couched within a religious lens. But the fact that it is so expounded upon within the literature is fascinating to me. And this, the good and the neutral and the evil jinn and the disbelief, that's has some kind of echoes to the fallen angel situation too. Fascinating. The rabbit holes are endless. Regardless, maybe working with the jinn, maybe not so much. Golden rules of protection. If you want to ensure total protection against harmful jinn, authentic texts lay out a clear fortress. The Ayat al-Kursi, recited before bed, as learned from the thief narration, and again linked in the description. This is mentioned later on in the episode, but the Bismillah barrier, Bismillah, saying Bismillah in the name of Allah before eating, changing clothes, or entering your home creates an invisible shield that blocks them from sharing your food or entering your space. The last 3 chapters, reciting Surah al-Ikhlas, that's Surahal-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, Al-Afalaq, and An-Nas, An-Nas, morning and evening. Yeah, okay, I just thought that was an interesting thing to kind of tumble down for a little bit and explore in a little bit more detail. Back to the OG recording. Common markers in these experiences include paralysis. Abductees often feel frozen while exams are conducted. Amnesia. Modern witnesses report missing time, while the Quran mentions how Satan caused individuals to forget significant encounters, such as Yusha in the story of Moses. Intrusive entry. Jinn are reported to be able to take people through closed doors, a common feature in alien abduction reports. Yeah, just being sucked out of the wall. The hitchhiker effect and possession. The hitchhiker effect in UFO literature refers to witnesses who, after an initial sighting, find the phenomenon follows them or their families. This mirrors the Islamic concept of possession and attachment, where jinn can influence a person's behavior or mental state. The Prophet Muhammad is quoted as saying, "The devil may flow through humans as the blood flows through in his veins." And the Quran warns that the devil's touch can drive one to madness. Well, sure. I mean, that seems like if you're going to be, going to drive you a little crazy. I don't necessarily see how that ties into the hitchhiker effect. 'Cause, I mean, yeah, but okay, sure. Moving on. Additional points of contact. Not all of this I agree with. I just find it interesting. I find that there's a significant overlap. Again, referencing the Ann Druffel book episode, she brings up the particular overlap between jinn and the Greys in particular. Moving on. Additional points of contact. Farouk McDermott expands the hypothesis with several specific markers of similarity between jinn and NHI lore. Flight and instantaneous travel. Jinn are known to transport heavy objects like the throne of Bilqis, Bilqis, and again, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Bilqi with a line over it, S, across continents in an instant. This echoes modern reports of tic-tac crafts traversing 60 miles in seconds. Telepathy. Jinn communicate via whispering. Waswasa. I mean, some of these words are just fun. Waswasa. That's W-A-S-W-A-S-A-H. Waswasa. Waswasa. I mean, that sounds like a whisper. You know what I mean? That's almost like an onomatopoeia, which aligns with the telepathic transmissions reported by contactees. Human jinn contracts. This is interesting. Historically, jinn have offered wealth or power to humans in exchange for loyalty and corruption. The authors suggest modern parallels exist in global elites engaging in occult practices or selling their souls for fame. Cyclical recurrence. Both the jinn and UFOs appear in cycles or flurries rather than a constant presence, suggesting an interdimensional nature rather than a one-time visitation from another planet. Conclusion. The authors conclude that the duck test, if it looks and acts like a duck, it is one, strongly suggests that jinn are the intelligence behind UFOs. They argue that the Islamic tradition provides a more robust and flexible conceptual paradigm for understanding these entities than secular materialism. The jinn's focus on global superpowers like the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance is seen as an attempt to derail goodness and accelerate global corruption through black government programs and secret technology. Maybe. Ultimately, the authors view the Jinn hypothesis as a tool for dawah, D-A''W-A-H, inviting people to Islam, offering a coherent explanation for a confusing labyrinth of conspiracies. Fascinating, interesting. That is our initial introduction to this kind of frame of mind. Already, though, when I think about that, what do I know? I don't know, but I'm enjoying the exploration. I think it's important to discuss. Going back to, many different accounts, specifically the Betty Andreasson account, but there are several accounts where you have a kind of conglomeration, right? You got the Greys, but then you also got the Mantids hanging out, kind of running the show. Maybe there are some Nordics in there. Are they all jinn? Is the show all jinn? I don't know. Because sometimes it's not like that, right? Sometimes it's just the Greys poking you. Sometimes it's the Greys and the little blue gnome kind of mini goblin-looking dudes, like in Whitley Strieber's account. While this is absolutely compelling, perhaps the jinn aren't just whole clothing this portrayal. They might be, as Tom Montalk suggests, be imitating other kinds of experiences, portrayals of beings to obfuscate the truth and, sneak in through the cracks, as they seemingly want to do. All right, we're moving on. Here we go. The second book we will be reading the summary of, and again, thank you, Blue, for providing these fantastic summaries. Check out Blue Crayon. The Vengeful Jinn, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, unveiling the hidden agenda of genies. And I'm going to do the best I can to pronounce these words and names. Hang in there with me. Thank you for hanging. Overview of the Jinn, the hidden ones. The Jinn, known in Middle Eastern lore as the Hidden Ones, comprise a mysterious race of beings that have remained cloaked in shadows for centuries. Authors Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Philip J. Imbrogno, that's Imbrogno, cool last name, probably mispronouncing it. Imbrogno, it sounds Italian, I could be wrong, but it's fun to say that way. Argue that the Jinn are a powerful and active, though nonetheless hidden presence in our world, often masquerading as other supernatural entities such as aliens, fairies, demons, and shadow people. Not to say that those things don't exist in and of themselves, but that the Jinn might be taking them on and portraying themselves so as to move past any kind of, hey, what now, what is this kind of a thing experience that we may have if they were to present themselves more forthrightly, which it seems like they just are not going to do. So, derived from the Arabic root jana, meaning hidden, the term describes a race created out of smokeless fire, right, that possesses lifespans and powers far exceeding those of humans. Theoretical physics and the Jinn homeland. While the concept of interdimensional beings may seem metaphysical, modern string theory and membrane or M theory provide a scientific framework for their existence. These theories suggest our universe consists of at least 11 dimensions, with brains, that's branes, like membranes, acting as the fabric that ties the forces of the multiverse together. I can't help but think about the giant amoebas bumping up against each other in the game Spore. If you know that experience and image, yes. If not, it's probably A-OK. I'll try and find a video. The authors propose that the Jinn inhabit a dimension very close to our own, likely the fifth dimension, which allows them to perceive us while remaining invisible to our three-dimensional senses. Yes, that's that tracks. That makes sense. I'm walking down this road. Because they are composed of smokeless fire. And again, remember what Tom Montalk said. This comes back, which the authors equate to plasma, the fourth state of matter. Also, real quick, great book. Almost done listening to it. I don't want to finish it because it is so good. I kind of want to go back. The author is a fantastic narrator. The New Science of Heaven. I am thoroughly enjoying, and will finish listening to it just because I know I have to. But it's a good book, and it's a good listen, and introduces this idea of plasma, and how we can begin to think about it, and how it has been thought about, and how people had not wanted us to think about it at all for quite some time. And guess what? It's here. It's been here. It's a thing, and it very well could be intelligent, which means it rewrites and completely reframes what we would consider to be intelligence and aliveness and beingness in some significant sense. Great book. Definitely recommend it. Most things I recommend are going to be great books. So, which the authors equate to plasma, the fourth state of matter, the Jinn. Jinn would require very little physical space to exist within these extra-dimensional pockets. They are thought to be sensitive to magnetic fields, which may explain why their activity in our world appears to be cyclic. A weakening in Earth's magnetic field might create loops or portals through which they can enter our reality. And while I won't go into it just because I want to touch upon the one little part in the portal today, the Portal book and the book after it, The Stone Cradle, talk about portals and what that might mean. And there are interesting blips and moments within the two books that open up thinking about portals into our reality and what might come through, as well as what we can do to go through them. In fact, the author, well, I don't know if I should spoil it, but it's a good book. We'll get to it eventually. Anyway, origins, Iblis, and the war in heaven. According to Islamic tradition and the Quran, the jinns were created by Allah between 1 and 2,000 years before the first humans, serving as the original stewards of Earth. During their dominion, they built great cities and societies, but their clans frequently engaged in devastating wars using terrible weapons that nearly destroyed the physical universe. Geez, Jinn. To prevent total destruction, Allah sent an army of angels to battle the jinn in a war that lasted 1,000 years. Following their defeat, the majority of the jinn were exiled to a parallel dimension, though some were allowed to remain on Earth to help prepare the world for Adam. It has some interesting rhyming with the fallen angel story in Enoch, and how one of the fallen angels went to Enoch and was like, "Hey, can you help make us a deal so that we don't all have to be buried and banished from this plane of existence?" And in the book of Enoch, and I go in this in the series I have, NHI Hathor, the exploration I have done, which I'll link to. But Enoch says, "All right, I'll take your plea to God." And one of the fallen angels, who's like the world's first lawyer, is like, "I don't know, God. If you banish all of us, then there's no challenge for humans to grow." And God's like, okay, well, I'll leave 1/3 of you around to mess about and challenge humanity just to see if they can handle it or not, which is a strange thing for me to read, but that has some interesting parallels here with this war that lasted 1,000 years, and how Allah sent an army of angels, and how they were exiled to a parallel dimension, but some were allowed to remain on Earth to help prepare the world for Adam. And if by prepare, maybe that means set traps, I don't know. A central figure in jinn history is Iblis, a powerful genie who ascended to associate with the angels. When God ordered the angels and jinn to prostrate before Adam, Iblis refused. Yeah, see, here's this kind of sympathetic ringing with the fallen angels story. So Iblis refused, claiming superiority because he was made of fire while Adam was made of clay. For his arrogance, Iblis was cursed and banished until Judgment Day. He subsequently vowed to prove humanity's unworthiness by leading them astray, raising an army of renegade jinn known as Shaitan, devils, King Solomon, and the enslavement of the jinn. A pivotal moment in the shared history of humans and jinn occurred during the reign of King Solomon. Suleiman, in parenthesis. Solomon was granted a divine gift, a magical ring made of copper and iron that gave him absolute power to command and exercise the jinn. He ruthlessly forced the jinn into slave labor to build the first temple of Jerusalem, compelling them to quarry massive stones, dive for pearls, and fetch marble. The Testament of Solomon provides a catalog of jinn he summoned, such as Ornias, a vampiric genie, and Beelzebul, the prince of jinn, whom Solomon sentenced to sawing marble. That's an awful way to put someone in detention. Cut that stone. This period of enslavement created a deep and lasting resentment among the jinn. Many jinn carry a grudge across millennia, biding their time for revenge against the descendants of humans whom they believe usurped their position in God's favor. Hey, we had nothing. God did it, okay? He was like, what? I'm sorry. We're awesome. No hate. The jinn social order and classification. The jinn have a complex society organized into families, clans, and kingdoms. A set of parents typically produces only one child, meaning their population is slowly dwindling. While individual jinn possess free will and varied personalities, they are often classified by a color system that identifies their power and rank. This is interesting, something to hold in our heads as we see floating glowy orbs that are making themselves apparent. Here we have a color classification system. It's something that I have been actually interested in trying to find, because the orb sightings are just, man, they are everywhere. Bledsoe posted a green worm a little while ago, and here we have a green jinn. So green jinns mean the youngest and least powerful, often characterized as playful or mischievous tricksters who live in holes in the ground. Yellow jinn, middle-aged beings with considerable power who generally isolate themselves from humans. Blue jinn, Marid, M-A-R-I-D, the oldest and most powerful group, with power nearly equal to that of the angels. They are unpredictable and often lie in wait to reclaim their world. Black jinn, mysterious leaders or kings of clans associated with black magic and extreme power. Red jinn, rebels who follow Iblis and are dedicated solely to the downfall of the human race. They are responsible for many cases of possession and hauntings. Right, so heads up when it's a red, black, or blue jinn. Yellows usually don't want to bother us, and green can be mischievous and are like kids. Okay, interesting. I mean, just hold that, consider it, weigh it, watch out. Nature, abilities, and deceptions. The jinn are defined by their trickster nature, operating outside human laws and values. They are masters of deceit and illusion, unable to be trusted even when appearing sincere. Their primary abilities include, here we go, shape-shifting. They can assume the form of any animal or human, with favorites being black dogs, cats, snakes, and aliens. Invisibility and speed. They move with tremendous speed and remain invisible unless they choose to be seen. I do want to say, just here they are, they're taking shapes and forms, and one of their favorite shapes and forms is an alien. But that's kind of saying that, okay, they will imitate an alien, but they themselves aren't alien, and that aliens they are a separate thing, according to this, because they're shapeshifting into something else. Maybe, right? Are they making it up from whole cloth? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. But here we go. Did we say this? Invisibility and speed. They move with tremendous speed and remain invisible unless they choose to be seen. Thought, influence. They influence humans by whispering temptations in their ears or entering their dreams. What was that word again? Waswasa. W-A-S-W-A-S-A-H. Waswasa. The whispers. That's a cool word. Possession. Jinn can penetrate the human body, circulating through the blood, to cause illness, insanity, or complete behavioral takeovers. Watch out. Wish granting. While they can fulfill wishes, these often backfire cruelly following the letter of the wish in distorted ways. On that point, I was having a discussion about 90s movies with my brother. We were talking about Warlock and how intensely violent Warlock and Warlock 2 were. I don't know how I got through those movies as a kid. Still, though, Warlock 2 in particular, with the training of psi abilities, he's doing telekinesis. That was cool to me. But he was telling me about Wishmaster, which I have never seen. It is about a jinn. It's about a jinn. The whole opening is this jinn, apparently, being connected to this Middle Eastern king, and the king keeps asking for wishes and getting wishes granted, but because it's the jinn's like, ha ha ha, you only wish for this way, and I get to screw with your kingdom because you didn't wish specifically enough, and the king just keeps wishing, and the kingdom keeps getting screwed up, and so this badass sage is like, we got to take care of this jinn, so he makes this particular gem, and tells the king, you gotta stop making these wishes, man. You're ruining the kingdom. And the king's like, I can't. I'm only trying to help. The jinn is helping. He's granting me wishes. And the jinn's like, yeah, leave us alone. But then the sage is like, nah. And he starts doing his awesome sage magic, holds out the basically a phylactery stone, and the jinn gets sucked into it. And then time passes, and it's like early 90s, and the Wishmaster begins. I haven't seen the movie. My brother was saying that the body horror we were talking about in the Warlock series isn't nearly as intense in Wishmaster as it is in the Warlock. With the Warlock, man, the beginning when the Warlock gets birthed in the first, whoa. All y'all who are like, no, that's fine, I enjoy it. I think you all have a stronger constitution than I do. Again, I don't know how I got through those movies. Sci-fi really edited those down, I think, way back when. And now I'm dating myself by talking about the television channel Sci-Fi. And I remember when it was spelled SCIFI. Yeah, anyway, interesting movies, interesting Wishmaster storyline, relates directly with the Jinn. Okay, back to it. Masquerades, fairies, shadow people, and aliens. Here we go again. The authors suggest that most paranormal phenomena are actually Jinn masquerades. The fairies and leprechauns share striking similarities with Jinn. Both preceded humans, live in a subterranean world, are territorial and have long lifespans. Like Jinn, fairies were often feared as fallen angels, who would punish any human who trespassed on their turf. Okay, yes. And the whole trickster element, especially with the leprechauns, do you want my gold? Oh. I don't know why that's not a leprechaun, not an accurate leprechaun representation. Oh, do you want my gold? Play my games and I'll steal your soul. I guess that's a little closer. Maybe, probably not. Anyway, shadow people. And I don't know what they sound like, though. Again, I have shared some experiences. I'm not going to lie. I've seen something a couple of times that fits this description. And the associated sensations in the middle of the night are not good. Shadow people, I will read this, represent another terrifying Jinn manifestation, typically described as blacker than black, human silhouettes, that often appear at the foot of the bed, radiating malevolence, and sometimes attempting to suffocate their victims. I have trouble breathing when those things are around. Their silence and ability to melt through walls align with the interdimensional nature of the Jinn. So a couple of times there's been an experience where it's been a shadow being at the foot of my bed, holding a hand out, and I'm struggling to breathe. And I end up waking up gasping for breath. At one point, it did have a kind of gray alien head, though the body was still this kind of living, flowing shadow. I'm not going to lie. Those things have happened. More often than not in the dream state. Anyway, it's an experience, and I would argue that probably is happening to more people than they would care to admit. It's a thing, but I think it is happening, and it seems like it's been happening for a very long time. Anyway, in the realm of ufology, the authors argue that many alien encounters are actually interactions with Jinn, deceptive messages from space brothers about saving the planet may be a tactic used by Jinn to gain trust and access to a person's energy. The physical manifestations of UFOs, glowing orbs that change shape and pop in and out of sight, fit the description of Jinn in their energetic plasma state. Notable case studies and field research. The authors highlight several locations and incidents where Jinn activity is prominent. Majlis al-Jinn, that's M-A-J-I-L-I-S. Nope, Majlis. That's Majlis. M-A-J-L-I-S, al-Jinn, Majlis al-Jinn. Don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's how it's spelled. During a trip to this massive cave in Oman, Imbrogno's guides, they fled in terror. We gotta get out of here. After a greenish mist took form and a voice clearly ordered them to leave my place. That would freak me out. I would be thinking we have to get out of here. This is not good. I don't like the green mist. Skinwalker Ranch. Okay. The Utah ranch exhibits classic Jinn hallmarks, including poltergeist activity, intelligent orbs, and dimensional doorways, where creatures crawl out of glowing tunnels. The Bell Witch. The famous American haunting involved a spirit named Kate, who displayed Jinn-like traits, whistling, whispering, making people ill, and explicitly stating it had been created millions of years ago. The Farm. An ongoing investigation involving a rural property where a hostile entity creates apparitions, malfunctions equipment, and reacts aggressively to human presence. human interaction and protection. Important part. While jinn are formidable, humans have several methods of defense. Islamic practice emphasizes reciting the Quran, particularly the Al-Kursi, the throne verse, and the last two chapters. I mean, the Bible says recite verses from the Bible. The Quran says read the Quran. Okay, a little self-promoting, but we are considering it all. The last two chapters, the throne verse, Al-Kursi, the throne verse, and the last two chapters, which are believed to ward off slinking whisperers, okay? Saying the word Bismillah, Bismillah, B-I-S-M-I-L-L-A-H, in the name of Allah, is considered a simple but effective repellent that can reduce genie to the size of a fly. Interesting. Bismillah. Again, all tools in our utility belt. Batman had a bat spray for sharks. We have Bismillah, among other things. The reducing a genie to the size of a fly, that is going to have kind of a rhyming in what we read in the portal here in just a little bit. From a scientific perspective, the authors found that the electromagnetic interference can disrupt a genie's ability to maintain form in our reality. Victims of hauntings often find that turning on lights, radios, and television decreases disturbances, as alternating current creates magnetic fields that the jinn find painful or irritating. Okay, get that AC current and maybe you'll be in a safer position. I don't know. Interesting. More extreme measures include using Tesla coils to generate high-voltage electrical fields, though this is risky, as it may only provoke a powerful genie's anger. Okay. The authors also use electronic voice phenomena, EVP devices, such as the mini-box, to communicate with entities at various hotspots. In one session at a stone chamber in New York, the communicators explicitly identified themselves as jinn, and claimed that the site was a portal through which they entered our world. The Hidden Agenda. The book concludes with a warning. The jinn appear to be increasing their activity in our world to pursue a dark agenda. Legend suggests that they seek to reclaim Earth as their rightful home. They are intensely interested in human technology and may be using alien abductions to experiment on humans or create a hybrid race that can exist in both our reality and their own. As Earth's magnetic field continues to fluctuate and solar activity intensifies, the authors predict that their dimensional rifts will open wider, leading to a significant increase in paranormal events and a possible collision of realities. Dealing with the jinn is not a matter of good versus evil spirits, but a racial conflict. Humans versus an ancient race of neighbors who want their world back. Interesting. Very interesting. The hybrid race thing. I mean, David Jacobs writes about that extensively. And you come across many accounts of babies being taken before they're ready to go. Again, in the Betty Andreas and Luca case, she is shown what happens with these babies. I've heard and read other abduction cases where they are shown babies in certain, or fetuses, excuse me, not even, although, fetuses in tubes, jars, holding containers. And that theme does fall backwards in time. You hear about the fairies replacing kids. What is the word? With changelings, thank you. Fairies replacing babies and small kids with changelings. So there's that. We do have that. However, I have to... And it's not like I think the world is hunky-dory, don't get me wrong. But if they have been making changelings for this long, they've been making hybrids for this long, and it seems like, there's more than enough evidence to say that some kind of program, some kind of situation, some kind of hybridization is going on. What is the end goal? Is the end goal eventually? Maybe my time frame is just not long enough to see a kind of success, or maybe they've already been successful and we're being run by them right now. Maybe. We're all still here. We're all still able to talk about it. I have a desire to live a very long and fruitful life. So, here I am saying, we're all still here. We can still talk about it. So just a heads up. I want to go on. I want to live on. Do some things. Keep talking about this stuff. So, keep that in mind if anything happens. But, what is the end goal? It's a very slow subjugation and integration of the world through hybrids. I don't know. And is it the jinn that are doing it? Or is that just a slap on to another agenda going on with these ETs? I don't know. However, the overlap seems heavy and thorough when it comes to how the jinn are portrayed and behave and have been recorded as interacting for quite some time with humanity. And now with this new NHI discussion and what's coming out with plasma and the orbs that everybody's spotting, I think there's something here. And there's something absolutely worth considering, worth thinking about. And the more we can consider and understand and have a wider view, the more we will be able to, through our own experience and understanding, suss out a better view of what's going on. And that's the idea of this show. What's going on? What can we do about it? Well, we first got to understand it, or at least become aware of it to some significant degree before we can really lean in and do directed responses. However, hey, Bismillah, right? Bismillah, which means in the name of Allah, is considered a simple but effective repellent that can reduce genie to the size of a fly. That also, hey, Bismillah, there you have in the Islamic context something that sounds very similar to people invoking Jesus in the Christian context. I will go back to Andruffle and also what Z was discussing and what Nate somewhat was discussing. The baseline level of belief, and Giorgiani talks about this kind of meta-structuring as well. What is most important is that you believe that it is going to work. Your belief, your investment into whatever operational technique or tool that you are using is what seems to have effect. I don't know. I have talked about how I've wrestled myself out of what I felt like were certain situations. I really want to engage in more conversation with others so that we can continue to have a better understanding of this situation. And I will continue to make content discussing this because I think it's important. But there we are. Okay. Book summary number 2. We are through. Let me hit up this little chunk from the portal real quick. Now, at this point, it is far along in the book. She is going through the last couple of parts on the square of Venus with Liliane and or Liliane, I think Liliane, 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 or Lillian. So with the E on the end, it's got to be Liliane, right? Liliane. Anyway, it's on page 269, page 269 to 270 if you've got the book and you want to follow along. As we walked up, Liliane looked pleased, and she's German, so. Sir, you will stay a little longer? I believed she thought I was suffering from... Okay, and the author is, I believe, from the British Isles. Let's see how we can do this. As we walked up, Liliane looked pleased. So, you will stay a little longer? I believe she thought I was suffering from some exhaustion-induced paranoia. Perhaps I was. I felt truly taken to my furthest point. She talks about magic squares as though they would help. They've been on this earth for over 4,120 years, dating from the time of the prehistoric Chinese Emperor Yu. There's a famous Lo Shu square, which according to legend appeared imprinted on the back of a magical turtle. Fascinating, but
What has that to do with me? Remember, magic squares were once used for the prevention of dizziness and also for longevity, which seems to concern you suddenly. A magic square is a talisman. You are crossing the Venus square right now. It will protect you. She taught me some signs of protection that had come from ancient Egypt, and this is the part that I want to bring up explicitly. Mentally, over your enemy, place a green pyramid. You need only to see the outlines of the pyramid, a mid-green color. If the enemy is particularly aggressive, see a figure 3 over the middle of his or her body on the solar plexus, a green 3 with a long tail. You can place a green triangle over those you fear. And here is the part that, interesting, the Bismillah shrinking them down to the size of a fly relates to. You can place a green triangle over those you fear, see your enemy in white light, and mentally push him or her back until the person becomes a white dot. That was the part. Protect yourself by covering your whole body, from the top of your head down to the soles of your feet, with a pyramid of gold light. Paint this gold bright gold. Use your imagination. Around your door, mentally paint blue light, a mid-blue from the Mediterranean. Sprinkle salt around the edges of your room. Cover your building with a green pyramid. Almost, well, yeah, just about out of nowhere, she drops this really specific kind of technique information. And I remember reading it being like, oh, should I write these down? Okay. And like I said in the episode with Ann Druffel, I do utilize the green pyramid over my abode if ever I feel like I need it. And thus far, when I intend it, thus far, things seem to be working out. Yeah. Okay, so let's do the last Tom Montalk post I wanted to bring up. And I like this because this kind of sums up more of what we can do, how we can think, how we can frame our minds, what may have been lost or compressed or kind of, dropped off along the way for one reason or another. But Tom Montalk, yet again, bringing the big guns and bringing back to mind a more complete frame in which to stand within and build upon for ourselves to move onward and upward when engaging with the reality as it very well may actually be. So, this also is a post from July 26th of 2026. The Bhagavad Gita says it's better to perform your own dharma, your destined purpose, imperfectly than to perform another's dharma perfectly. Part of knowing yourself is knowing what you're built for, cut out for, born for, hence, came here for. The more you align with that, the less internal resistance, greater conviction, and more external serendipity you'll have. While we're all unique in our granular reasons for being here, we also have more generally shared factors. Thus, society clusters into macro-dharmas. Example, the ancient Vedic caste system was divided into 4 primary levels, the upper 2 being the Brahmins, the priests and scholars, and the Kshatriyas. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but that's Kshatriyas, Kshatriyas, the warriors and rulers. Each had their own value systems, rules, and dharma. With enough inner evolution, it's possible for one to become more the other, though this involves a sincere transmutation of who you are rather than just a casual going through the motions. Here are the values and challenges of the Brahmins and Kshatriyas. The Brahmin ideals: purity, clarity, restraint, self-discipline, enlightenment, forbearance, uprightness, knowledge, meditation and prayer, faith, humility, non-violence, detachment from material ambition. Brahman challenges:
violence, trade, selfishness, hypocrisy, falsehood, giving in to base desires, worldly ambition. Notice how the above is present in the Christian ideal, since Christianity originally and today is Brahmin-like, missing the kshatriya component, which it had only briefly during the age of chivalry due to outside influences and circumstantial necessity. Now, kshatriya ideals: energy, action, boldness, heroism, prowess, valor, vigor, splendor, energetic power, fortitude, skill, resourcefulness, courage, generosity, leadership, sovereignty, justice, righteousness, protection of the weak, truth, honor, decisive action in service of Dharma. Kshatriya challenges: cowardice, tyranny, cruelty, abuse of power, excessive addiction to sensuality and vices, greed, gambling, drinking, blindness to injustice and failure to protect the weak, neglecting of one's duties and personal revenge to the dereliction of one's dharma. In the West, this was the domain of the order of chivalry, the knights and the king. Some of you fit somewhere on the Brahmin to Kshatriya scale. If in the middle, then fulfillment is pursuing both, not just one or the other. But if you're clearly just one, you'll have a hard time trying to be the other. Even if you try to perform the motions perfectly, if they're not yours, then your heart won't be in it, and the flow won't support it. This is so for all the castes. Consider a Brahmin trying to be like a Vaishya, Vaishya, I hope I'm not mispronouncing that, a merchant, a trader, a farmer, lacking the shrewdness to be good in business or the strength and stamina to be a great farmer. Or maybe in trying to be a better person, you obtain some books written by Brahmin-like authors in the Christian, New Age, or similar fields. But if a Kshatriya at heart, you'll find that peace and detachment isn't what your soul yearns for. Maybe you need to instead keep your head in the game and fight for justice, truth, and victory. Society's chaos, inefficiency, unhappiness, and suffering is partly due to the things being out of place, thus out of harmony, an inverted meritocracy where the incompetent and unscrupulous rule over the honest and hard-working. The natural order can't be forced, but, in time, will reassert itself like water, seeking its own level. Enjoy wholeheartedly the philosophy of Tom Montalk and what he puts out to consider and hold within our minds. So that way of considering what we're doing here and what we can do, everybody can do something different. And Gordon White of Rune Soup talks about how, in relation to the Middle-earth Lord of the Rings space, not everybody is here to go fight Sauron, right? But everybody has a part to play. Every character's role in that story was absolutely essential to the success of Frodo melting down that ring. All of them. And defeating, ultimately, the forces of Sauron. And I like that, too. We all have a part to play. What is that part? Well, here, Tom Montalk talks about how if you're more Brahmin-like, you're going to have a certain set of situations that you're going to resonate with and move toward, and trying other things ain't going to work out. So the same thing with the Kshatriya situation. If you're a Kshatriya and you're told, no, chill, nonviolence, you're going to be like, nah, bro, I'm ready to go. And it's follow what's within you. Follow your heart. Listen to your heart. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. And so there we are. There we have it. This is what I wanted to talk about today. Again, a little bit of a slapdash kind of put together, but important information nonetheless to consider and carry with us all, along with some interesting techniques. May they all serve you, and if they resonate with you, great, take them with you. If not, drop them. And may we all follow our hearts and listen to our hearts and find just what our role is that we can execute and move through for the betterment of ourselves and all humanity. What can we do about it? We've all got a slightly different answer, but I think we're all converging on more of how we can approach our individual answers to that question. Thank you. Thanks for hanging. It's always a blast to discuss this stuff with you. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. I have a good time. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you, and I will catch you on the next one.